Okay, alrighty. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everybody. My name is Lieutenant JG Aaron Abreu. I was a prior enlisted. I was a chief hospital corpsman prior to commissioning to the Medical Service Corps. So, this presentation is to basically educate and tell you all the possible programs that is available to you while you are active duty. Now, there's going to be a separate presentation of other commissioning programs that is available via a recruiter. So the goal of this web series is we're going to build from this one, right? We're going to talk about all the possible commissioning pathways, but eventually, right, I'm just going to focus on the Medical Service Corps and Procurement Program, MSc IPP, because that's the one that I commissioned from. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows where this is going to. Another goal of this web series is to also educate you on how to basically prepare your package so that it is more competitive and more ready, and your chances of getting selected increases. Okay, I'm not promising you that if you follow these tips, that you're going to get 100% selected, but I do guarantee you that it will improve from where it's currently at. Okay, we're also going to invite previous recorders, board members, people that got selected from MSc IPP, previous MSc IPP selections. So we're going to hear from a lot of individuals and hear their stories and what made them successful as well. So hopefully you can emulate that and that you can utilize that too while you're submitting your package. Okay. So without further ado, let's start with the first episode, which is what are the commissioning programs that are out there? Like I said, this is to explore different opportunities for enlisted to officer commissioning programs and that you'll be knowledgeable on the different instructions with each commissioning program. Now, I'm not going to go in depth. Okay, I'm not going to go in depth with these programs. I will post the link of this PowerPoint presentation. It will be available through Google Presentations, and the links are embedded in this slide. So please feel free to click on them. This is just to give you an overview. But it is your responsibility. I'm going to say this again. It is your responsibility to ensure that you read over the instructions and the program. Okay. So the agenda, we talk about general requirements. We talk about what's State 21 Seaman to Admiral program, United States Naval Academy, Officer Candidate School, Limited Duty Officer or LDO, Chief Warrant In-Service Procurement Program, MESEP, Medical Enlisted Commissioning Program, MSc IPP, which is the Medical Service Corps In-Service Procurement Program. So those are the programs that we'll dive into. So generally, these are the requirements. Now, each program will have specific requirements, but in general, this is what is required of you to commission. You must be a United States citizen. There's no exception of that one. And majority of the programs that I just mentioned earlier will require you to be commissioned by the age of 42 years old. Some programs are actually specifically for the Officer Candidate School, Fleet OCS. They're more strict with age requirements for certain designators. Okay, most will require you to at least have a bachelor's degree, no civil arrests or NJPs in the past 5 years. And to answer your question, yes, some individuals who've had NJPs in the past, as long as it's outside of 5 years, have been selected for that. So don't let that be a detractor. As long as that you've shown that you've grown from that, you should be good to go. Application is required. So each program has a specific application requirement, and we'll go over those here in a little bit. You will be required to get interviews. This is also going to be part of our web series. How can you prepare for an interview? Because you don't just submit an application, you have to be interviewed for, let's say, for example, if you want to be a nurse, you have to be interviewed by Navy nurses that can vouch for your potential to be a naval nurse in the nurse corps. And you need to be able to prepare for that and be knowledgeable with the specific designator or corps that you're trying to get into. It will require CO recommendation. Physical must be recommended and eligible to commission. And what I mean by physical, I'm not talking about our PFA. I'm referring to your actual medical. examination. So this is when you fill out your DD 2808, 2807. ManMed Chapter 15 talks about the requirements for commissioning. It is not the same as the requirements for your enlistment. Now, there are specific things listed on there of what would be considered a disqualifier, but do not let that stop you from submitting still, because some of those, the provider might tell you that you can submit a waiver for it. And the last but not the least, you need to pass PFA. You can't have multiple PFA failures and expect to be commissioned. So these are just the general requirements for all of those programs that we talked about. So let's talk about the Seaman to Admiral program, State 21. This instruction right here, I'm not sure, there you go. OpNav instruction 420.1 Bravo. And there's also a program authorization for this. And I will link to, there's a link here for the Navy Personnel Command website that talks about this Seaman to Admiral program. Basically, with this one is you'll stay in your current pay grades in active duty. The requirement is you just need to have a high school diploma. Your tuition will be covered at about $10,000 per year. You do need to have a ACT or GRE test score, and the age is program specific. And what I mean by that is depending if you want to be a nurse, nuclear, there are specific requirements for this program in terms of age, right? So here are some program options. I'm not going to read all of them here, but mostly pilot, naval flight officer, and civil engineer, I believe, comes up a lot out there. Nurse Corps this year, so this video is being recorded for calendar year 2020. Nurse Corps actually just opened up for Seaman to Admiral program. So this is a good opportunity for those individuals to expand your horizons and have that other plan on how you can commission to be a nurse, okay? Next one is United States Naval Academy. Again, there's a hyperlink on here that you can click and read over. What's cool about this, it's your tuition. It's basically a university. And I will invite a guest here in part of our web series who's going to talk about in depth about their experience in the Naval Academy. And same thing with the other programs like State 21. And kind of walk you through the process if this is something that you're interested in. So 100% tuition covered. You're also going to receive a monthly stipend and a monthly cash per month to cover for your basic expenses in there. Like I said, this is just an overview of the United States Naval Academy program. There are other things that you have to submit for. Right. Other requirements that you need to meet, you have to be unmarried, not pregnant, and no dependents. And your age at least 17 years old, but must have not passed 23 years old. So this program is geared towards, if you think about it, it's more geared towards those individuals that are in their junior or their senior and high school. To be clear, right? Not college. So junior and senior high school. So you also need a nomination from your senator or your congressman as well. So these are some requirements for the United States Naval Academy. Okay. Next one is Officer Candidate School. This is also found in this instruction, OpNav instruction 1420 Tech 1 Bravo. Website, again, I hyperlinked it here. Navy Personnel Command has a very in-depth, frequently asked questions. What is the current checklist for OCS? And here are the different designators that you can get into if you are interested in commissioning as a naval officer. To mention some of them, there is SWO here, Surface Warfare Officer. Then you have a pilot, you have supply. Again, this website right here will basically tell you everything that you need to know and what you need to submit for this program. It is age specific, just like the State 21. It is also very age specific, depending on what designator or program that you're trying to apply for. Board dates are different for each person that are trying to submit for each program, I should say, and it relies on this Fleet Officer Application Checklist. Okay, again, hyperlinked will be available for you after this. Next is we have the LDO, Chief Warrant Officer program. I think as the time of this recording. It just actually, the nav admin just actually came out. So there's also an NPC website dedicated for LDOs and chief warrant officers that are aspiring LDOs and chief warrant officers for this one. Same OpNav instruction, 1420 Tech 1 Bravo. As you can see, there's a trend right here. A lot of always showing up on here because that's basically the enlisted to commissioning program instruction. The current nav admin supersedes the OpNav instruction. So it's very important for you to pay attention to what the current nav admin says. The latest one specifically says here, LDO ensign E6 to E9 must have 8 to 14 years time in service. E6 applicants must have a 1 year time and rate as of October 1 calendar year of application and pass the E7 exam. For chief warrant officers, E7 to E9 E7 to E9 must have 14 to 20 years time in service, right? And they must be a high school graduate. So, like I said, not all programs will require you to have a degree, and I believe this is one of those. So on here, the next few slides, you're gonna see here specifically if you are an enlisted individual, right, in the Navy, and if you look at on the left-hand column right here, you'll see the enlisted rates and what is the equivalent for that one as a chief warrant officer or a limited duty officer for that one. So we're not going to go over each of one, but for example, right here, if you are a GS, okay, what chief warrant officer designator would that fall under, and what is the LDO designator for that one? Okay, going to go through that. And this is available in the OpNav instructions. So click through this. Okay, for PS, Supply Corps, Supply, CS, Food Service Warrant, okay, and much, much more. Okay. All right. Now to where my comfort zone and my lane a little bit, the medical side. So Medical Enlisted Commissioning Program, also known as MESUP. I think this is a very, very popular commissioning pathway since a lot of individuals are aspiring to be a nurse in the Navy. And this is the most requested, and a lot of people ask questions about this. So we will have a dedicated web series for this specific program that an individual who I know that got accepted to this program, and they're going to talk about what exactly you need to have, or what are the things that they did in order to increase their chances for selection as well. Okay, there is a dedicated website for the MESUP program. What's cool about this is that you still, while you're going to school, right, you receive full pay and allowance for your current enlisted pay grade. So if you're an E5, you get the current pay and allowance for an E5. And also you can take the advancement test while you're going to school for your bachelor's in nursing. Here's a caveat that I actually did not know till like last year. The Navy will not pay for your tuition while you're going to your nursing school. You actually have to pay for your own. So most individuals use the GI Bill or other financial aid sources. So I just want to make that clear, because I was under the assumption that MESUP was 100% tuition covered, but it's actually not. So just be mindful of that, okay? Must be commissioned by age 42, complete your bachelor's in nursing in 36 months, and you need to have a letter of acceptance in a BSN program. So you can apply to multiple nursing schools and get a conditional letter of acceptance while you're applying for this program. You also need to have either an SAT score of 1,000 or an ACT score of 42. Okay, that's the MESUP. Next one. This is the commissioning program that I actually got accepted in. The Medical Service Corps and Procurement In-Service and Procurement Program. I know it's a mouthful, so most people just call it the MSc IPP program. Surprisingly, a lot of people do not know about this program. They just know of MESUP when it comes to medical, but there's actually the Navy medicine is very broad in terms of the different officer designators and specialties that you can get into. So there is a dedicated website for MSc IPP. It will have all your frequently asked questions on there. But generally speaking, the requirements are you need to be commissioned by age 42 as well. You need to have a bachelor's degree or a master's for most program. And certain programs, depending on what you want to get into, requires you to have a standardized test. So either a GRE, a GMAT, or an ACT. There's also two options on there. You can either go through the training route where the Navy will send you to school to get your master's, or the direct route, meaning you already have your master's degree. Now, I'm not going to go in depth yet. Well, what are those programs where I can, just apply with my master's? Because just because you have a master's doesn't mean that you're going to get accepted to this program, right? There's specific requirements within there's specific accreditation that you need to have for your master's degree to be considered for a direct route option. We'll have a separate web series for this one as well. So these are the different programs that is available within the MSc IPP. I put asterisk on the ones that are commonly always shows up on the NAV admin, because every year there's a NAV admin that comes out for this. Healthcare administration, physician assistant, and pharmacists are always shows up there. Medical technologist also has been showing up the past like 3 or 4 years, I think. Radiology health officer, haven't seen anything about that yet, but it is part of the program. HO also shows up. Environmental health officer and industrial hygiene officer, occupational therapy, and social work. So these are the designators or specialties that is available for the MSc IPP. So those are that's a brief overview of what is available to you while you are active duty, right? So you can commission as an officer. Now, I understand there's also the recruiting side for that. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to talk about that in this specific web series. We'll actually talk about that in the part 2. So certain tips that I would recommend, right? Just now that you know about this, please, right? Read the instruction for your desired program, whether that's Stay 21, whether that's you want to go to the Naval Academy, or if it's the MSc IPP, read the instruction and the current NAV admin for that. I cannot emphasize this enough, because majority of your questions will be answered through the NAV admin or the designated website for that specific program. For example, MSc IPP has a designated frequently asked question document on there. And I think 90% of the questions that people ask me, it's in that page, right? So please research that. Also research the designator, right? What do you mean by that? So for example, you want to be a healthcare administrator, right? If you want to be a healthcare administrator, you can't just go in there and be like, and you're going your interview and you have zero idea of what healthcare administrators do. Does that increase your chances of getting selected? Probably not. So you need to make sure that you research the designator that you're getting into. What do they do? How do they fit into the big picture, into big Navy? If it's Navy medicine, well, what's their role within Navy medicine as well? So you want to start kind of researching, and also down here, right? Officer, mentor, and network, right? Network is a big thing. And you can do that now through like Facebook group pages, right? I receive almost every single day about like 1 to 5 questions about commissioning, or just simply asking, hey, I would like to, connect with you and just to see what you do as a healthcare administrator. I personally don't mind that. And that is totally fine, because honestly, there's a lot of non-medical rates that ask me about what healthcare administrators do. And they genuinely don't know what I do as a healthcare administrator. So I respond to them and tell them about that. And they do that through networking. So same thing for you. If you want to be a pilot, if you want to be a supply officer, you need to find that group that can basically connect you with other officers, and also elaborate on or elaborate on the job or the designator that you're trying to get into. Okay. Another thing is pay attention to the checklist and the requirements, right? As you saw in the previous slides, there's tons of checklists on there. Look through it, because that will tell you exactly what you need. Okay. So there's no need to ask, well, what do I need to submit a package? It's there on the checklist, right? I'm going to use MSCIPP as an example again, actually, as well as Fleet OCS, right? The Fleet OCS application checklist and the MSCIPP checklist is very, very in depth. It tells you exactly what you need to submit. So I'm still in shock when people say, well, how do I submit a package? Well, it's on there, right? It's on the checklist and it's available for you. Last but not the least is on-the-job training. Okay. When it comes to on-the-job training, I say this because I think this is what actually helped me, right, with my commissioning. If you can, right, if you can, I know it's not always possible, shadow some of these officers. And I know, granted, a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. We have a busy life, right? We have a busy work schedule, right? The only reason why I'm able to do these videos right now is I'm on ROM right now. I'm on a restrictive movement, so I'm creating these videos. But majority of the officers that you're going to probably talk to is probably so busy on their like routine and their schedule. But there's probably that one that's going to be like, sure, come on down. Let me bring you to my meetings and show you the world of what you want to get into, right? So, but it takes a networking to have that on the job training. Okay. So you can't just be like, can I have an on the job training? Okay. And we'll have a separate web series on how you can properly network. Cause I see so many posts of like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. There's a better way to ask for a mentor without blatantly asking for it. And we'll talk about that in a separate web series. Okay. Last but not the least, actually, I said last but not the least earlier, but there's actually two more here. So whatever, it's okay. I'm human, right? I'm not perfect. So excel in your enlisted career. Okay. A lot of people think that they can just drop their pack and just stop being an enlisted sailor. And like, well, I'm commissioning. That's what I'm going to shoot for. Well, guess what? Guess what they review in your package as part of your package? Your enlisted evaluations. So if your enlisted evaluation does not reflect that you are a stellar sailor, and I'm not saying you have to be like super EP nonstop, although it does help, it needs to show there that your performance is excelling everywhere you go. Right? Because these programs are highly, highly competitive. So don't expect that just because you have the degree that you are a shoo-in. That is not true. You need to excel in your enlisted career. And I always tell these to sailors, you want a commission? Great. Let me see your evals. Why are all these like PPP? Why are you not involved? Why are you not doing more than just your job? Right? So excel in your enlisted career. And of course, meet or exceed physical standards. Okay. I remember like when I was getting my package reviewed for MSCIPP, I think there was the officer requested for my prims, not just the 3 that he already sees in the application. He requested for our prims, and he circled like, why were you good low on this one? Why were you like just asking if this is like. And his rationale is like, we have to set the standards, right? As naval officers, you have to set the standard as a department head, as a future department head, as a future division officer. You want to make sure that you are setting the standards in all aspects. And that part of that is also your physical standards as well. Okay. So those are some of my tips. This is not sponsored by the Navy, not sponsored by the Medical Service Corps, and it's not sponsored by the Department of Defense. I should have said that at the very beginning, but I'm saying it now, right? This is just Lieutenant JG Aaron Abreu trying to put out some info. Right. So if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I am available via Facebook. If I don't respond right away, it's probably filtered through my message requests. And I try to respond right away, although it doesn't always happen. Please, don't hesitate to ask any questions if there's not anything. Like I said, this is just episode 1, kind of scratching the surface. Hopefully I get to see you all in the next few episodes that we have. And don't forget to, like and share, and also comment your questions. I'll respond to those too. Right. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day.